Hey everybody, I promised I would do a live showing the Witch Legs zipper bag. I don't know if you can see this over here on my screen. This is my PE 800 and I do love the color screen. It's still tiny, but at least I can make out what's going on. So I've already started a little bit of this. I did my zipper placement stitch already, as you can see, and I've got part of my zipper tacked down. The zipper placement stitch leaves room for your zipper teeth to follow along that track. If you can see it, it's going to go all the way down, and I'm going to secure it with just a piece of Scotch tape. You can do pins, you can do temporary adhesive, you can do whatever it is that you want to use. Just make sure that whatever you're using is not in the path of your needle. I do have some, well, I'm a little tired tonight, so kind of deal with that for a second, but I do have some props to show you guys, a little bit of goodies. I'm always looking for something because I don't really like sewing on my machine. My sewing machine. This bag is totally in the hoop, but you do have a slight opening where you have to turn the bag. So I'm not patient enough to do ladder stitching in the middle of all of this. So the other alternative is to either use fabric glue, which I have used on several of my bags, fabric fuse, if you can see it. Hey Antonia. I also use something that I just picked up the other day. Now, if I can find it, I'll be much better off in life. Oh, here it is. I found this at Hobby Lobby, and it's basically tape strips, and they come in a pretty wide strip, but I cut the strip in half, and then I cut it to size to fit the opening for them turning. So, anyway, there's another alternative for you. Use that 40% off coupon. I am going to be doing the witch bag tonight. So I have my purple zipper. My particular one is the orange fabric for the outside. I don't know how orange that looks here. It looks kind of yellow to me on my screen. And then I have polka dots for the inside. So I have my orange thread. I have very, very pretty green thread. And I also have some glow-in-the-dark green thread. So I'm contemplating using the glow-in-the-dark thread. I do have my sewer's aid handy because the glow-in-the-dark thread seems to be a bit drier than the rest of it. You glue mine and clip it till it dries. Hey, Antonia, I do that too. I have lots of these little clips, these little wonder clip looking things, and they are fabulous. I know they're for quilting, but by gosh, they sure hold these things together. I usually put 2 or 3 of them across it, but I tried this tape and it works pretty well. The hardest part for me is I had my nails taken off, so they're really, really short right now, and I can't peel the edge of the tape up, so I'm probably going to do the glue tonight. I'm not sure yet, but if you have some stubborn thread, a couple of drops very sparingly down the edge of the spool, 1, 2, and just let it soak in a minute. It tends to help. So anyway, I've already stitched out my placement for the zipper. I've attached my zipper to the hoop. And if you guys are following along at all, I don't know for any of you who've already bought this bag, I'm now going to stitch the zipper tack down, and it is in 2 color stops because I don't want it to stitch across the teeth of the zipper just yet. I need to be able to open that zipper up. Aren't they great? I got a whole tin of them off of Amazon. I don't know if they're Wonder Clips brand or not, but I got a whole tin of them. I love them. I use them for all sorts of things. And it's a pretty little tin. It's got a carrying handle on it. See? I got me a little treasure. So, I'm going to go ahead and stitch the zipper tack down. And it's going to stitch back and forth. So, it's going to do a double row across the zipper. Come back to this side. And then it'll skip over to the other side of the zipper. And I'll have to press go again. and it's going to stitch the other row. And again, I do that not in a single stitch because I want it, I need to be able to open that zipper without having to deal with threads going through the teeth on it. Antonia, no way! You have the same tin? We must have been shopping Prime on the same day. Okay, so this is the part that's the same for all the bags, all of the lined bags that I do. What's going to be different is the next step. So the front piece, oops, wrong size. I do want to show you though. I use the clear cutting mats that are available at the Dollar Tree for templates. So if you look, I have 6 inches wide by 8.5 high, 6 inches wide by 7 high, and 6 inches wide by 4 high. So you're going to have 2 pieces of each size, your outer fabric and your lining fabric. So I have my front piece, which will be the bottom under the zipper, is the first piece you're going to put on. So I'm not adept enough to worry with this camera there and not have to deal with it. I gotta be able to do what I'm doing. I can't do it with one hand is my point. I'm really tired, so forgive me tonight for I'm babbling on a little bit. Hey Stephanie, I have a whole bunch. I bought like 10 of them the last time I bought them, and I still have about 4 packs unopened, but I use them for pattern making for all sorts of things. Okay, so on these bags, you're going to lay what will become the bottom of the front, or the outer fabric. You're going to lay it to where it is just below the edge of your zipper. And I'm going to remove that tape here in a second, but it's going to sit just below the edge of your zipper, so that when you stitch it across, after you take it out, you're going to have a really nice, beautiful seam here. You won't have any raw edges or anything like that. So I know I'm going to be off camera for just a second, but let's see, what else can I put up here for you guys to look at all the pretty things. Is everybody ready for Halloween? I know that my husband and I always buy 2 different kinds of candy. You know, every year we fool ourselves into thinking that we only buy the candy that the kids like. No, we only buy the candy that we like, and then we buy the bag that we don't mind giving away. The bag that we don't mind giving away usually has the Smarties and all of the non-chocolate type things. The bags that we keep have all of the Reese's Cups in them. What kind of tape am I using? To hold my zipper in place, I'm just using regular Scotch tape. This one is satin finish gift wrap tape. It's just what I had on hand. I don't like the super shiny tape. It's got a lot more stick to it than this one does. I think somebody said a while back that they use surgical tape. I haven't tried it yet. I think that would be really sticky, but I couldn't figure out whether they were talking about the real surgical tape that they close incisions with, or if they were talking about like the kind that you wrap a bandage with. I'm really not sure. So I'm going to go ahead and line up my fabric, and you're going to put this piece on the front. Then you're going to flip. Washi tape is expensive unless you get your little coupon out, so I haven't thought about that, but it would be pretty to stitch with, I would think. Okay, so I've just got the top piece here on the front, just taped down for a second. So I'm going to come to the back of my hoop, and if you can see where all of my stitch lines are, the 2 in the middle were the placement stitches for the zipper teeth, for the row of zipper teeth. The top and the bottom were the tack down for the zipper itself. You can trim off the little tails if you want to. I'm not too concerned with it because it's all going to be hidden anyway. So you're going to take the equivalent of your outer piece and your inner piece, and you're going to line it up the exact same way. So you want this to be right below your zipper. And I'm not sure if you can see it in this light or not, but my zipper is actually about a 1/4 inch below this stitch line. So you want to line this up, And again, I'm just going to put a small piece of Scotch tape there, and I'll secure it together in just a second. I'm not good enough to hold it all out of the way and expect that it's going to stay in place and not bunch up under there. So what I normally do is just fold the edges, and I grab one of those beautiful little Wonder Clips again, and I hold it in place like this. So I've got my fabric sandwiched up around the edge of my stabilizer, and it just holds everything out of place. And then I'm just going to pop it back in the machine. It's going to stitch one row of single stitches across the bottom here. And yes, I do have my handy dandy chopsticks ready. And I'm just going to stitch it across, unclip the hoop, fold the fabric on the front piece only down. If you were doing this bag without a design, you would fold the front piece and the back piece or the liner down completely. But since I am stitching a design right now, I'm just going to take the front piece down. So I'm going to go ahead and hold the liner up out of the way, just like I did before, but the top piece is going to be down. Now the legs on this little witch are a little bit dense, so I'm just going to add another piece of stabilizer in place. You'll never see it. It's just going to give some stability to the stitches. I'm going to trim that off just a little bit. It's a tad too long for me, so I'm just going to cut the edge off here. I'm going to remove my tape, and I'm just going to put this here. So if you can see where I've put the piece of stabilizer, that's only to give some stability underneath the legs of the witch, to keep it from bunching up quite so much. Now what I really want to do is make sure that you are careful when you make your edge here, because this is going to be your finished edge on your zipper, right under your zipper. So you want to make sure that it comes up to the edge of the teeth. If you can see it. I know I don't have the best camera set up, but it's going to actually make a very nice finished edge at the top and the bottom of this row of zipper teeth when you're done. So I'm going to go ahead and just secure this in place with a couple of pins in the corners. And I'm going to put a piece of tape across the top just to hold it down a little bit. I don't want the fabric to pull up so that your edge around your zipper teeth is not even. And I'll show you what I'm talking about in just a second. Be careful not to pull it too tight, because you do need to have a little bit of play in this, so when you start stitching it doesn't pull too tight for you. But if you notice, I just put that piece of tape in the center, and all that's doing is holding the fold of the fabric in place. So I'm going to put this back on the machine, and we're going to stitch the next piece, which is the tack down. Not a tack down, I'm sorry. We're doing a basting stitch, and I made a very wide or long stitch length around here, and that's just going to give it some stability as well. And you're going to be able to take the stitches out. Not all of them need to come out, but the top piece around the edge of the zipper are going to come out. Hi Lori, hi Pat. The hoop for the bag is a 5x7. The finished bag is going to be roughly, let's see, 4 3/4 by 6 3/4 if you lay it flat. So 4.5 by 6.5 puffy, I guess. But I'm not going to leave this off here, but I just wanted to show you what it's going to end up looking like. So I do have a basting stitch all the way around. It's just going to give it some stability. So I can go ahead and remove this piece of tape. I don't really need it anymore. It was just to hold the fabric at the top. Oh, my stitch went right through the tape, so forgive me for just a second. I'll get rid of that in a minute. But anyway, and I can even remove the pins here at the bottom if I wanted to. That basting stitch really is going to hold it in place. So if you notice, it's nothing on the back now. I am going to go ahead and remove this piece of tape on the back because I don't want that to get bunched up in my stitches with the witch's legs. So I'm just going to fold this back up, put the clip back on it, hold that sucker out of place, and then we're going to stitch some witch legs. I brought one of these bags to work the other day, and the ladies I work with decided that they really want one of these, so I think I'm going to have to make a few of them. Oh, plenty big enough for your cell phone. It's big enough for your cell phone, for your fistful of keys. If you're like me, I have keys for everything. It will hold your credit card or ID holder if you've got one to put in there. It will also hold a pack of cigarettes if you smoke, a small hairbrush. It's pretty big inside. Now, I did not put any WSS on top of this. You could if you wanted to. This is quilting cotton, so I don't really see a need for it. Some people still put it on top of that. You can, if you think you're going to get some better results, test it with whatever fabric you're using or whatever stabilizer you're using. I'm using Cutaway. I tried Tearaway on the first 2 or 3 bags that I made, and it just feels too crispy or too crunchy to me when it's finished. I don't know, I guess that's just personal preference, because you can't really tear it out. So, I don't know. I just like it better with the Cutaway. So this is Cutaway as well. And I've got another piece that I'll use later on in the design too. So Stephanie, what all do you carry around in your purse besides your cell phone? I see Vicky's trying to send me messages. I don't know if she's watching the video or not, but she's active on Messenger. She's been babysitting the testing group for me quite a bit lately. My day job is still crazy. It is getting a little bit better, and hopefully soon I'll have an office manager in place, so I can get back to the fun of this craft sooner rather than later. So, do you guys think I should use the glow-in-the-dark green or the bright lime green? Which one? It's going to be going with the beautiful purple that I have on there and this beautiful orange. So, you guys pick. Help me decide. The bright orange, it's almost a tangerine. I know it looks kind of different in my phone light, but it's almost a tangerine color. Oh, Stephanie, you could add one of these. I'm not a big fanny pack kind of person, but you could put a strap on it like a fanny pack. You can just have it, ooh, glow in the dark, yes. You can just have it with a wrist strap or wristlet on it. I just use one of these with a piece of ribbon and just carry it around hooked to my finger. That way, if I do have my big purse around, I can carry it all around. Oh, hang on one second. I'm going to trim this jump stitch. The only thing I wish this machine could do, you know, besides have a much bigger hoop, is cut jump stitches. Oh, I got 2 votes for glow in the dark. Hello, Inez. I do like glow in the dark. I bought a box of them. Let's see. Sim thread. I bought this box last year, and as you can see, I have 3 of them. Oops, I'm really terrible with thread nets. I don't use them. I should. I had 6 rolls in here, but I only have 3 in there now, and I have 1 on the table. The other 2 are put away, so I do like to use the glow-in-the-dark. I don't know, it depends on the design. But I know that Vicki uses variegated thread for almost everything in life. I think it's like candy for her. I have a whole lot of variegated thread, but for this design I just wanted to kind of stick with some color, just regular colors. But, you know, glow in the dark, I can be a little crazy. Oh, I know, Inez. I have 3 machines with the 5x7 hoops. These things, my little snips. I also have a Janome MB7 that has a larger hoop. I don't know the exact measurements, but it's roughly 9 by 8 or so. I will be getting a bigger single needle machine with a very large hoop soon. Don't tell my husband though. These are the best little snips ever. Oh, Inez, girl, we've got to get you upgraded, don't we? I've never stitched on a 4x4. I don't know if I could at this point. I'm used to having the 5x7. I've had it for a long time. Nope, they are clippers, little snips. I absolutely love them. They work great. I got a 3-pack off of Amazon. They're called Artman, A-R-T-M-A-N instruments. They are very, very sturdy. They stay sharp longer than the other little thread nanny snips that I had before. But they came 3 in a pack, and I've got all 3 of them right here. My problem with these is I used to lose them all the time, and I didn't really want to spend the money to keep buying them. But then, you know, we eat Chinese food quite a bit, so the lids from the Chinese dishes become my tabletop containers. They hold all the little things that would fall all over the place. Okay, it's time to try that glow-in-the-dark thread. Okay, so give me just a second. I'm going to load it into my machine, and we are going to have some fun. I did put a couple of drops of thread conditioner on this earlier because I think I mentioned that this glow-in-the-dark thread seems to be a little bit coarser, I guess, a little drier than the other thread. It's always been that way, so it's not like it just became that way. It was like that when I first got it last year as well. So I just put a little bit of thread conditioner on it earlier to give it a little extra help. So we will see what happens. Got a couple of other little stray threads that I want to get rid of in here. Okay. Now let's see what happens. I'm just going to stop it for a second and clip this tail just to keep it out of the way. There we go. Hey Roxanne, I'm really not sure. I know that I want something with at least a 14-inch hoop. I know there's an 8x14 or a 9x14. I think it's Brother or Baby Lock. I'm sure there's probably others too. I'm familiar with Brother and Baby Lock, and then of course I have my multi-needle as a Janome. What kind of machine do you have? Stephanie, you want the link for the snips? That I can do. You know, it's pretty easy to find something in my ordering history on Amazon. All I have to do is touch my laptop and it goes to 2 pages. It goes to Etsy and Amazon. Looks like a few more people joined us. Hi, everybody. I sure will, Steph. I'm on my phone right now, so I'm not real sure how to do it here, but I'll share it in the comments of the video. So, other than the fabric, this one's called Fabric Fuse. There's, you know, a couple of dozen brands of that. But fabric glue and maybe these tape strips or whatever. What do you guys use in place of ladder stitches on closing? Stephanie, I think you and I are kind of kindred spirits. Let's see. A Singer that does 6 by 10, huh? Stephanie Wallace, what size hoop do you have with your Essence? I'm going to change my thread out now. It's time for that beautiful orange color. It really is a gorgeous color. Let me get this out of the way and get that changed. An 8 by 12 hoop? Okay. Well, I know a couple of my testers have either, I think it's a 9 by 14, but I don't remember what brand it is. I'm going to have to go poke my head back in the test group and find out. Because I'm jealous when they say that. You know, I can't test anything bigger without doing a repositionable hoop or design, and I'm not adept at that. I haven't done it but twice, and it didn't turn out very well, so I'm reluctant to do it again. So when I make a design that's bigger than my own hoop, I have to rely on other people, and I have a really good group of testers, and a few of them can go either a 9 by 12, a 9 by 14, or an 8 by 14, or something similar to that. So I'm going to trim this tail thread real quick just to get it out of the way. So you guys probably know if you follow the group. Oh, look, you're going to make me do metric conversion, Joyce. That's going to tax my brain, but I'll figure that part out. Ooh, Stephanie, I've been to that store. That's not far from where I work, actually. We should meet there for a play date. Hi, Pat. Looks like a couple more people joined us. Yay, we're having a party. So, I've been to that shop at the Windmill Shopping Center, and then there was another one that sells Singer and, I don't know, a couple of other brands. That's in another shopping center up in Lenexa. I think it was Lenexa. Or maybe Shawnee. I'm not sure which. But anyway, it's not very far. It's within 10-minute drive. I wasn't real impressed with their lack of customer service at either one of those locations. Although the one at Windmill was better than the first one. Oh, good night, Steph. I hope you're enjoying your brand new she shed. I'm super jealous of that. Just know it. I'm kind of excited about this glow-in-the-dark thread. It kind of looks dull right now, but I think it's going to be really cute when it's done. Alright, it's going to be time to change the thread again. Okay, now, I'm not going to take it out of the hoop, but I just want you guys to see. If you looked at any of the pictures that we had of the testers' designs, or the one I had up here when I listed it, there is a zigzag stitch that goes all the way around the legs and in black. And I did that for a couple of reasons. One, because I really didn't want a heavy satin stitch all the way around. But two, because just a bean stitch didn't really cover the edges properly and it just looked ragged. So I thought, well, if it's going to look ragged, let's make it ragged on purpose. So I made a very, it's not very wide, but it is a zigzag that goes all the way around. The stitches are a little closer together than like a normal zigzag that you would see on your sewing machine and stuff. But I think it gives it a pretty cool little edge around there. So I'm going to let the tail hang on for just a second till it secures. And then I will cut it off here in a second. Okay, just going to get that out of the way. There we go. So it just gives it a little zigzag edge around the legs. And I don't know, I thought it looked really cute like that. So I hope you guys like this design. I know I love it. So it's going to go around both legs, and then it's going to stitch the boots, and then we have the buckle, and I think I'll do the buckle in the glow-in-the-dark thread as well. I think the design calls for white, but you know how embroidery designs are. Unless I'm doing something that's true to life, a landscape, a bird, or a person, then I really don't care what colors. You know, it's whatever you guys choose. I think beauty's in the eye of the beholder, right? So if you wanted to do green stripes and purple polka dots, it'd be okay with me. And again, I wish my machine cut jump stitches, but it does not. So I do have one to clip between the two legs over here. I'm going to stop it for just a second. It's out of the way now. I like trimming them as I go just so they don't get caught under something and give me the opportunity to pull a stitch out when I don't really need to. Now if you stitch this design or this bag without any design on the front, if you're using printed fabric or patterned vinyl or anything like that, when I took it out of the hoop and folded this front piece down, you would also fold the back piece down under the hoop at the same time. But since we have stitches, I want them to be covered. That idea came from Vicki. She does testing and she pays attention to the group and keeps me in check. Keeps me on schedule sometimes, and that's pretty hard. But anyway, that came from her because if you pull them both down at the same time, it's going to leave the raw stitching on the back exposed on the inside of your bag. And if we're going to go through the extra effort to make the bag, let me just get rid of this. If we're going to go through the extra effort to make the bag no exposed seams, then having it do no exposed stitching is an even better option because it just gives you a cleaner bag, a cleaner finish. So the basting stitch seems to be doing its job fairly well. The fabric pulled just a little bit, but not very much. It is pretty dense stitching though, so you might have to, I don't know, the water soluble on top might help with something. I know that one person who tested in the group, I believe she was using VP3. The boots actually left like an empty space in the middle. So I don't know if it was just her version, but she seemed to use the same type of stabilizer, you know, sandwich that we all used, which was the cutaway, and secured it in place pretty well. So I don't know what happened on that one, but it didn't really show up in the other formats. But if you guys run across anything like that, it's an anomaly to your format, let me know. I can poke around with the design and be more than happy to send you a revision if I need to make one. And trust me, I love show and tell. So when you guys stitch these out, post a picture here in the group. I love to see what you guys do with it, and the colors you choose and everything. My doggies are barking outside, so I think I'm going to let them stay outside for a little bit longer. It was only in the 50s today, and it's supposed to be in the 30s tomorrow morning. So there is a slight frost warning. We went from 90 degrees last week to 30-something in a week. Kind of crazy, but... Now, if you were stitching this bag without any design, we'd already be finished. But that's okay. I don't mind spending time with you. The only downfall to these is we have idle time to visit. While these are stitching out, it just takes a while on those boots. Now, one thing you might notice is if you do end up with a couple of gaps, you can use fabric marking pen, or I have some Sharpies hanging around. I do have a whole rainbow set of fabric markers. So if you have to spot check, these are Tulip brand. If you have to spot check a couple of spaces on there, go for it. It's not going to hurt anything. So when this boot gets done, we'll do the buckles, and then we're going to fold the liner down in the back. I'm going to remove that basting stitch across the top of the bag, right underneath the edge of the zipper now, and stitch that together, stitch the top, and then turn and cut. I still haven't decided if I'm going to use the fabric glue or the tape strips yet, but you guys helped me decide that on the glow-in-the-dark versus the lime green, so how about you choose for me? The glue is a little bit easier for me, but the tape, I don't know. The tape works well. I just have to pick the edge of the paper off of it. I really do like the witch legs, though. I did a key fob version of the witch legs last year, and it was pretty fun. It was one of the very first designs I ever did for release and sale. So it's been a year now since I've been doing this. It was a year in September that I opened the group. It's been fun. I've learned a lot. I've made some great friends, people that I've never met in person, the vast majority of which I've never even talked to on the phone other than through Facebook Messenger. A couple of you we have talked on the phone. Antonia is one of them. She helped me with some things a few months back. She did a video chat with me and showed me some tricks, and I really, really appreciated it a lot. There are quite a few other people in the group that are very helpful. Vicky is one of them. Joselle is another. Michelle Segura has always been very helpful in the group as well. And I know I'm probably going to leave some people out, and I really don't mean to, so please don't be upset if I don't mention your name. But I have a really great group of testers. Maggie, Vanessa. They're just a really good group of people. All right, so it's time to put the buckle thread in. And again, the design calls for white, but I am going to go back to this really cute glow-in-the-dark. That we used on one of the legs. We're just going to use that for a buckle. So unless it's dark and this is illuminated, it's going to look almost white anyway. All right, here we go. I know that it's a broadcast faux pas to have dead air, but sometimes it just happens. There we go. I'm certainly not a broadcaster by trade, so anything that I'm doing here is winging it, literally winging it. I have no real setup. It's just me in my living room. I got the TV on mute, and I got a couple of craft lights trained on the machine, and I'm just letting it do its thing. My husband laughs at me because he thinks I'm talking to myself. He knows better, but all right, let me get that jump stitch out of the way. So since Stephanie left the video and went to bed, you guys have gotten awfully quiet. Who's on here now? Do some check-ins, guys. Let me know who's watching. So for those who missed the first part of it, I'll just show you a couple of more things. I bought some tape strips that I have used on a few bags to close the opening after turning. I also have this Fabric Fuse Quick Bond Fabric Adhesive glue that I have used quite a bit. I always make templates for the pattern fabric pieces, and I use the Dollar Tree. Hi, Debbie. I use the Dollar Tree disposable cutting mats. They work great. Sharpie can go on them. I just do rough cuts. They're for me. So anyway, that is what I'm doing. I'm going to go ahead and pop this off the machine now. And if you notice, oh, I got a little piece of tape there. Let me get rid of that. If you notice the basting stitch across the top, I'm going to go ahead and snip it and see if I can't get it off of there because I don't need it on there right now. There we go. Right, at least I got it started. So I'm going to clip the basting stitch off down here past where it makes the curve on the corner. The rest of it is going to be covered up. You know, you can go through here and clip it all off if you want to. But really, honestly, I'm just concerned about the edges and the top because that's going to be visible. The finish on the bag is going to cover up all the rest of this, so you won't even see it. So, probably shouldn't be doing this with these little snips, but I'm going to do it. Now, it's going to leave a few holes where you can see where the basting stitch was. A little quick steam with the iron will get rid of that. If you're using vinyl, make sure that you use something protective on it. You can use a hair dryer and kind of rub the holes out if you're using vinyl or something like that. But this is quilting cotton, or you know, it's going to work just fine with a little press of the steam if you want to. You could even just try it with just a little spritz of water from the spray bottle and finger press, blow dry it, or just a quick press with the iron. So, okay, so my basting stitch knotted in the corner, so I'm having a little bit of, here we go. Maybe I can get that from the back side. There we go. Cut the knot off, and the whole thing should come out. I'm going to go ahead and clip it off the back here. So the college that my son goes to is Northwest Missouri State University up in Maryville, Missouri. It's near Iowa and Nebraska. They are actually playing a football game. He doesn't play football, but he's in the Army National Guard, and they sometimes do carry the flags and stuff like that around. But they are playing a football game this weekend at Arrowhead Stadium here in town. So he actually has to come home. So it's a forced visit with Mom and Dad. I'll take it. I'll take any visit he wants to give me. Anyway, so I'm having a little bit of trouble with this corner. But there we go. That's better. There we go. Got it. So you could take all of the basting stitch out if you want to. It's kind of not necessary, but so now you want to take the back piece and fold it down as well. You want to make sure that you line it up with this row of stitching. So just right on or slightly above the row of stitching. I'm going to take a piece of Scotch tape and secure both edges down just to hold it in place, and then I'll sandwich it together with the front piece and put a couple of pins in the corner just to keep it from folding back up on itself. Ask me how I know. I have ended up with a bunched up liner on the back of these bags more than once. So, again, you could take, you can take all of the basting stitch out if you want to. Totally not necessary, but some people will want to do it, so just go every few stitches and cut it. Pull it out, and I do have real tweezers, because you know tweezers belong in every sewing kit, right? Let's just pull them out. Doesn't take long as you clip your stitches every few stitches or so. That way it doesn't, oh, there we go. Now, the front piece will just come right off. So there you go, nice and clean. So I'm just going to secure this with a couple of pins out of the way again. And since this is done, I just want to show you. I do have a little bit of open weave, I guess, in the shoes themselves. I don't know that you can see it on my camera. Hey Tanya, it's okay because you're going to be able to watch it. I'm going to add it to YouTube, but it's also going to be in the group, so you can click to watch it anytime. It takes a few minutes for Facebook to do publish after the live is over, but once that's done, you'll be able to go back and watch it anytime. And I do have other videos on YouTube, but I also have, let's see, I also have this same bag without a design on it as a video in the group as well. I just left the glow-in-the-dark thread in here. That wasn't my intention, but it's okay. I'm going to do it anyway. So as you can see, I've got my handy-dandy Save Your Finger stick over here. I use this chopstick for all sorts of things. Okay, so now the front and the liner are both secured to the stabilizer at the same time. So now we have to do the top piece, which is going to be above the, let me get rid of that. It's going to be above the zipper. So we're going to do that the opposite of what we did earlier. So I'm going to take the front piece, and remember it's going to be like this when we're done. So we're actually going to fold it down or lay it flat face down so that the edge is right above the edge of the zipper. Okay? Now I have measurements for these in the instructions, and I also have the templates cut. Some people may want a little more above the zipper. So in the measurements that I have, you do have some play, and you're going to have some slack and some excess that you're going to cut off. So you can have it a little bit more above the zipper than I'm doing it. It's totally your preference. But basically, you just want to make sure that when you fold it up, you have enough to cover the inside of your hoop so that when you're trimming it out, you're not cutting into your bag. And you're going to do the same thing on the back. Remember that it's going to end up like this. So you want to make sure that it is this way when you fold it. Okay. Now I do have tape already on the back from when I had the bottom piece secured, so I'm going to just remove that. And let's see, here we go. Line it up above the edge of the zipper. Hold it in place with a piece of tape, and then I'm just going to secure it with a pin or two just to give it some more stability. I use my tape over again a couple of times, so by the time I get to about the third use of the tape, it's not very sticky anymore. So I always want to secure with a pin or two just along the edges just to hold it in place. So let's just do that. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. So I've just got a pin, and I'm not sure if you can see it here or not. It's kind of in there. But that's just going to hold the two fabric pieces together. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. So I'm going to put that back on the machine, and you're going to run a tack down stitch just across the edge of that zipper. Okay, my thread kind of got bunched up here, so I need to babysit it for just a second. Hi, Kimberly. Okay, so you just unsnap it from the hoop, remove your tape, unpin it, remove your tape from the back, and as you notice, I have a lot of excess over here, and that's quite all right. This is going to get folded up, and you want to do the opposite of what you did here. But you want to make sure that this is either right on or just barely over the edge of that row of stitching. That's going to give you room for the zipper to move across the teeth, but it's also going to give you a finished look on the inside. Hopefully nobody's digging around in your little bag, but in case they do, I'm going to do a little finger press to hold that down, put my tape back on the edges to hold it in place. That piece of tape is not sticky at all. Here we go. So I just hold it in place like this. And then I'm going to take the front piece, and you want to make sure that you're lining that up right at the top of your row of zipper teeth. Secure them in place either with a pin, with more tape, or with a little bit of temporary adhesive spray. Not my favorite thing, but if that's what you want to use, then use it. And I will show you what I'm talking about in just a second. There we go. So you want to make sure that when it lies flat and after it's stitched, that your zipper teeth will be able to move freely. So I'm going to just pop that back on here, and it's going to run a tack down stitch now across that top piece. And I just like to hold this down so it doesn't get caught. Just make sure your chopstick stays out of the way. But better the chopstick than your finger, right? Okay, now if you notice, the needle is now down near the bottom of the hoop. That is because we're going to stitch the front piece on. I'm going to remove all the pins, show you what the back side looks like. Okay, all the pins are gone. The back side is tack down above the zipper here. I'm going to remove the tape, so I don't really need that anymore. And it's about done with its little sticky life. It's all finished. So now what we're going to do is add the front piece of fabric. And I'm using the same orange. It's actually going to be the back, but it is the outer fabric of it. So again, I have measurements for these, but basically it's going to fill up the inside of your hoop. So just make sure that you are on the edges. I am going to do a couple of other things, but this is what your fabric's going to look like. So we need to now open your zipper, because if you don't open it now, you're going to have to do a little creative cutting later on. Test it, make sure that it can move freely, that there's nothing binding it, so that your zipper is moving freely. Leave it open about 3/4 of the way. Oh yeah, I have 2 of them up here, Inez. But keep your zipper open about 3/4 of the way. Now you can add tabs or not have tabs. It's totally up to you. You can add 2 on the top, 1 on the side, none at all. Do whatever you want to. I always add 1. I don't know, for whatever reason, I like it on the side, and I like it lined up with my zipper right here. So I've just chosen some orangey colored fall ribbon that I got at, Hobby Lobby for 40 or 50% off, whatever it is right now for fall fabric. And I'm just going to line it up over the zipper. So, and I'll show you in a second, it's kind of difficult to hold it in front, but if you can see there, the row of stitching here that's holding the fabric down on either side. I just want to line that ribbon up over it so that when it is stitched and completely finished, it's lined up perfectly over the zipper. Now, perfectly is a great word. It's not always an accurate word, right? So, you want to be as careful as you can just to keep it in place for now. And I'm going to use one of my little clips again and secure everything together. In fact, I might use 2 because this ribbon is not very stiff, and it's not grosgrain. I usually use grosgrain ribbon, but it's not grosgrain, so it's not wanting to stay in place. It's kind of flimsy. So I'm just going to then push this all the way up to the edge like this, and then I'm going to just put a piece of tape across the hardware just to keep it from moving around so much. Okay. You want to make sure that your tab is long enough to keep your hardware out of the way of the needle, because that is one surefire way to mess up your machine. Do not do that. I would not recommend it. Okay, so now that I've got my hardware kind of taped in place, it's just holding itself out of the way. I'm going to put what will become the back of my fabric face down over it. And I'm going to take this piece of cutaway. All I did was have a pre-cut sheet to fit my machine, and I cut it in half. I'm going to put it over the back or the top of this, so you're going to end up with a sandwich. The reason I do this is because it's just going to give it some extra body. There's already stabilizer in the hoop that you're not going to be able to get rid of. You're not going to be able to pick it out. It could be because it's going to be completely enclosed inside the bag. So what happens then is the front of your bag, after you've done your 2 turnings, the front of your bag is going to have a nice body to it. The back of your bag is only going to be 1 layer thick. 2 layers thick of cotton. Now, if you're using vinyl, it's a little bit different. It's going to have a lot of body on its own. But if you're using cotton like I've been using on these bags, you really do want it to have an equal amount of body on the front and back. So basically you have a sandwich, right? So the sandwich is just getting pieced together layer by layer, stitched in place. Your hoop unclipped, but don't remove your design from the hoop. Let it stitch. It's going to go all the way around now. What this is doing is sandwiching all of this together. And you always want to make sure that when it's coming up to the zipper, you can stop it if you want to and make sure that there's nothing in the way. I've done quite a few of these, so I know just how far to move my hardware out of the way. But if you're not sure, then measure it. And that way you're not binding your machine and you're not going to be hitting anything with that needle. So it's going to stitch right over the zippers. So earlier when I said you're going to have to open your zipper now, otherwise you won't be able to open it without a little bit of maneuvering later on. That's why. Because if you look at it, the only way to get to your zipper now is through this opening. Now, what I normally do, and I'm not going to take the time to do it right now, well, I may, is go ahead and clip this piece out, and this is cutaway stabilizer, so it just doesn't tear out. But you have to be careful not to cut your zipper tape on the inside of that. Okay, so basically what you want to do is expose the zipper in here. Okay, that's going to be your second turning, but it's also going to be how you access your zipper. So I'm not going to do it all the way. I'll do it in a few minutes, but I just wanted to show you that you can do it right here. Hey, Vicki, I don't know how you missed it, but you did. I'm almost done. I only have one layer left, and then I'm not going to make you guys suffer through me clipping everything and turning it, because, you know, I kind of have a little muscle fight with that occasionally. But anyway, okay. So now, after you've taken this off, you've got your front piece all stitched and it's completely enclosed. You want to flip your hoop over to the back side. And what we're going to do now is take what will be the full piece, full-length piece of the liner fabric, and then sandwich it on the back. Now you want to make sure, if you can see down here where your stitch line is, I don't know if you can see it in this light, but there's your stitch line right here. I want the bottom of that fabric to be at least an inch below that zip line, that stitch line. Make sure you have enough at the top, and I'll show you why in just a minute. Let me, I'm going to secure this back in place. Hey Vicki, I'm using glow-in-the-dark thread. Well, even if Vanessa's not here right now, she'll be able to come back to this video and watch it again and again. Vanessa is one of my testers. Sometimes written instructions aren't enough for me. I'm a very visual, hands-on learner, and sometimes my testers are as well. I'm sure that some of you learn different ways as well. Some people can take a set of written instructions with a few pictures and just, it's perfect the first time. And some of you are like me. You have to see it, you have to try it, and you have to either make mistakes or you have to watch someone else make mistakes, which is probably what you're doing right now for me. But, so anyway, I've got the back piece secure. I'm going to stitch it. This is the second to last stitch in this design. Okay, and it is not going to go all the way around. It's going to leave an opening for turning. But it will go around and leave about a 2.5 or 3 inch gap at the bottom for turning, and then it'll go right back around again. So it's going to give you 2 rows of stitching for security on the back. So if you notice, it's just going to reverse course and go the other way now. I know, Vicki. I do have to do things 2 or 3 times. Sometimes more than that, depending on the complexity of it. But if you guys don't mind being bored while I trim this, I will tell you why it went to that corner. Okay, the very last stitch on this is one that you don't actually stitch. The last color stop is just to move the needle out of the way so it doesn't go back and get caught on the zipper, it doesn't get caught on the hardware, but it also moves the needle out of your way so you can unclip it from your machine. So I'm just going to lift the presser foot. I'm not going to turn it off or anything right now. So it's fully done, but if you look on the back side, I don't know if you can see it in here, but there is a gap here to here. If you can see it, there's a gap in between, and that's where you're turning it from. So I'm going to go ahead and take the pens out, trim it for turning, because if I tried to just turn it right now, it's far too bulky and there's a lot of excess around the edges. Okay, so there are a couple of pointers on the zipper. Oop, hang on, the screw on my hoop is really, really tight. I'm having a hard time with it. There we go. Okay, so on the zipper, if I were just to take a pair of scissors and trim around the entire edge, it would cut your zipper off really close to, like, you're going to end up with about a 1/4 inch or less seam allowance. To me, that's too close. So I'm actually going to trim it, and when I get close to the zipper, I'm going to trim above, and then I'm going to trim below, and then I'll cut the zipper off when I'm totally done. So I am not going to bore you guys with this and me trying to be contorted. But if you look on the back now, where that gap is, I've just taken a fabric marker and I've extended the gap down to the bottom of the fabric. You probably can't see it too well, but here's a line and here's a line. We're going to actually leave a tab, and that's for tucking it in so you can ladder stitch, glue, or tape it in place and close that opening of the liner. So I am just going to start my cutting, okay, and then I'm just going to cut. So what other kinds of designs on these bags would you guys like to see? Yeah, that's the truth, Vicki. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. When I get to the zipper, I'm going to just move my scissors, because my scissors were clipping all the way around, and I'm going to fold that piece up so that I am not clipping the zipper just yet, okay? So I'm going to clip over the zipper like this, and then I'm going to clip behind the zipper. It's kind of hard to do while I'm holding it up in the air, but okay. So if you look now, I've clipped in the front and behind the zipper without actually cutting the zipper. So I'm just going to move those little stray pieces out of the way so you can see what I did. So I left the zipper outside of the cut line now. Okay, let me get that out of my way. A monogram on the bag. So just add like a monogram frame or something, and you guys to add your lettering, or not a frame and just maybe some vines or some pretty decorative stitching around, and then you can add your monogram in the middle. What do you want? Okay, I'm coming to the other side. I'm going to do the same thing. Now on the tab, on the ribbon itself, I'm totally fine cutting that. That does not bother me. It's that zipper that I really want to watch out for. So I'm just going to cut that. Okay, I'm just going to get that out of my way. So I've cut that out of the way now. I'm going to move the zipper and cut on the back side. Okay, Let me move this out of my way. I'm really tired, guys, so bear with me. There we go. That one little piece of fabric was bunched up in the back, and it was giving me a little bit of a fit. And I will trim the zipper up, but I just wanted to show you what I do and tell you why. Because I don't want the stress of the zipper being cut so close to the teeth to pull the zipper out, if that makes sense. I don't want it to come loose for anything. Okay, so now I have my bag with its floppy ears zipper. So just clip the zipper outside of the stitch line. Vines and leaves, that would be kind of cool. So I just leave the edge of the zipper out of the stitch lines. Now if you look here, flip it over to the back side, you should have 2 layers of what will be your inner liner, a layer of, or 2 of stabilizer. That one is just an extra piece. The 2 layers of the front fabric, and then another piece of stabilizer. Take your 2 pieces of liner and you fold it down out of the way. You do not want to cut that, but you can cut this other tail off for sure. Okay, so just cut it straight across to meet the edges. So now you're just going to turn your bag. This is where you have to be smarter than the bag, and this is where you have to make sure that the bag doesn't get the best of you, right? So I'm not going to make you suffer through this with me, but I am just going to turn the bag. I do use cutaway stabilizer, so it is not crunchy, I guess. I don't know how else to describe the tearaway. You could use tearaway, but again, it's personal preference. I just don't like the crunchiness of it. It just, I don't know, I just don't like the crunchiness of it. So you're just going to twist and turn this bag until you get it inside out. And then you're going to say, oh my God, what are you doing? It doesn't work that way. Well, you're right. You're going to have to trim the rest of the stabilizer from the edge of your zipper teeth. And you're going to turn it again through the zipper. But before that, you got to get it turned the first time. Then you're going to close that opening either with a little bit of glue or with the fabric tape, or if you want to take a needle and thread and do a little letter stitch, you can. Not my favorite thing. If your sewing machine is turned on, you could just run a little straight stitch across the bottom of it. It's going to be in the bottom of your bag anyway. No one's going to see it. It's totally your choice. But for a more professional look, I don't want any exposed stitching on this particular bag. I have other bags that I do have exposed stitching, and there's nothing wrong with them whatsoever. But if you're going to advertise and sell a bag as a no exposed seams, then that's exactly what you need to do. So I've got the bag turned the first time. And as you can see, I have my 2 tails that we left cut. So all you're going to do, you have an opening. You're just going to tuck them in like this. You're going to run a bead of your fabric glue along the edge, tape it, run a ladder stitch, whatever it is you're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and use the fabric glue. I'm going to go ahead and use the fabric glue on there just because it's a little faster for me than messing with that tape. Oh, my husband's bringing the dogs in, so you guys are going to hear Crypto and Remy and probably Luke. There's the puppies and the husband. Hi.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring the dogs in.
Oh, I don't care. They belong in here just like us. Okay, so that piece is done. Clip off my little stray threads. And then just press this together. You can use your clips like Antonia mentioned earlier, hold it in place, let it sit for a few minutes, whatever you want to do. Hi, Elise. I do too. I just think they're a nicer finish. Anyway, so there it is. So now I've just got to trim the stabilizer from around the zipper teeth. Normally I would take my time and do this slowly, but for time's sake, I'm not going to be very slow about it tonight, although I will be careful and not cut my zipper tape itself. That's the only good thing about the tearaway is you'd just be able to dig this out and rip it. Hi, puppy dogs. You can probably hear the tippy tap of the dogs. What's Magic Stitch, Vicki? Good night. Vicki, I don't know what Magic Stitch is. Is it liquid stitch or what? Okay, so since I wasn't very careful, I did snip the edge of my beautiful finished piece just a little bit on the liner. So you won't be able to see it, but it still kind of aggravates me that I did snip it a little bit. So if you can be very careful when you're trimming this piece out so you don't do what I did, it would be better and give you a much nicer bag. My dogs are in the house, so if you hear some rustling, some tippy tap of the feet, maybe a little bit of barking, that just means they're playing. They're in for the night. They're done. My husband just walked through and said good night. And I do have kitty cats roaming around in the house too, so they're kind of waking up from a nap. Okay, so as you can see, what I'm doing is just cutting the edge of the stabilizer from underneath where it folds, where the fabric folds, and that's where I snipped it just a little bit. I'm going to put a little bit of fabric glue just to seal it. I've got some fray check somewhere for that spot. I do use fray check on thread ends and such. I don't use it on a full opening. It just not feasible to me, but I will use it on that one little snip because that's a tiny spot just like a frayed thread. Okay, so I would trim this piece out over here, so let me go ahead and do that. Because even though this is one for the test or the gift files, it is still one that I want to have some pride in. So I want to make sure that I do my best. Again, I'm really tired, so I'm not at my best tonight, but at least it's going to be a cute little bag, and I know a bunch of little girls who would love it no matter how many little snips it had on it. I would never, ever, ever try to sell the bag, but I don't mind gifting these bags. Anyway, I'm going to trim a couple of stray threads here and there. Okay, so here comes the second turning. So I've got my zipper. I'm going to push it open all the way. And if you remember, I taped this out of the way earlier. So there it is. Our husbands are lightweights, aren't they, Vicki? Anyway, so now you're actually going to turn your bag. Before I do that, let me get my fray check and put a dot on that stitch, or that little snip. I don't know if you can see it. It's right on that green dot. So I'm just going to put a little bit here just to keep it from, there we go. Uh-oh, I lost my way. Here we go. Word of caution. The bottles are very similar. Do not get fray check and sewer's aid mixed up. You will regret it, no matter which way you do it. Okay, so now you're just going to turn this bag. Come in and finger press your corners like this. This is also another good thing to use your chopstick for. It's a blunt end, so it won't poke. Well, it will if you press really, really hard, but if you're just easing the corners out, then you should be good. Just giving it a nice finished corner. Just like this. Just like that. And voila. You can give it a light press. Make sure your zipper goes back and forth easily. You've got your tab. A light press if you want with a pressing cloth. And if you notice the zigzag stitches around the legs, I just like that stitch a lot. And it is glow in the dark. A nice finished back. You could use a printed coordinating fabric for the back if you don't want it to just be a blank canvas. If you wanted to embroider something or whatever on the back before, you can. You just have to make sure that you line up your pattern when you go to stitch it out properly. Now, I don't know if you can see them, but there are a few little tiny gaps in the boot itself. So I have my black marker, and you could just go in here and just dot a few of those to kind of fill in the spots. Try not to let it bleed or get over onto your fabric or anything. But you can just fill in if you want to. I don't know. I think it looks perfect the way it is. It gives a little bit of character. And if you notice, my ribbon here is lined up over the teeth. It did slip a little bit, but not much. But there is your witch leg bag. Thanks for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it. I'm going to save the video in the group, and I'm also going to add it to the YouTube channel. The bag is on intro price through Saturday the 12th, so go and grab it. Thanks. Have a great night.